Chip, 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 chip. Testing. One, two, three. Testing. Chip, 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 chip. Testing.
Test, test.
Can you all hear me well? Okay. I want to say namaste to everyone. And good afternoon. I am usually selected to fill in when the bishop's not here. And I didn't realize he was going to be gone this week. So, as usual, they call me and says, "Can you fill in? Can you fill in?" I said, "Yeah, I have something." But I wanted to talk to you, and I'm not a biblical scholar, but I'm an experientialist. People say, "What's an experientialist?" A person that has experienced many unusual aspects of life that maybe the average person hasn't experienced, in terms of where you've been and the things that you have seen and done, are information to many people who haven't traveled. How many people here today have been to Africa before? No one here today? Okay. I'm recommending that you do go to Africa before you leave the planet for your eternal rest, because it opens your mind and your spirit to what it was like before our contamination. And people say, "Well, what do you mean before your contamination?" Well, it was rather naive of me in 1966, 67, to, as a young teenager, to believe that I could turn the black race around and, excuse me for a moment. Hello? Hello? Hi, I can't talk. I'm on stage. I can't talk. I'm on stage. All right. That I could turn the black race around by revisiting where we originally came from. Now, anyone who knows anything about the pre-civil rights movement in this country knows that anything black or African was definitely not in vogue. If you mention Africa to people, they would immediately say the dark continent, or they would say voodoo. All right, that's the only benchmark that they had been given to measure in association with anything black or African, was either voodoo or the dark continent. Now, I had a dance studio on Minnesota Avenue back in the 60s. And it took 3 years before people decided they wanted to come into the studio space, because they said it was too clean, the colors were too bright, and it smelled too good inside. Now that lets you know how the self-esteem of people back in the day had been damaged by the European perspective of life. They didn't start to come into the space until their children were given summer jobs and were designated to come into the studio space to be trained. And that's when the parents started allowing their children to come, and they started coming to the studio space. That perspective, to some degree, still exists today among some African Americans when it comes to perspectives of things black or African in terms of Imani Temple. Some people are afraid of Imani Temple because of that big word, African. They don't want to come into an African what? Environment, because they're afraid that something mystical is going to rub off on them. And I'm here to let you know that there is something mystical about Africa that will rub off on you and make you speak truth to power. When people come to you with silliness about, "You still go to Imani Temple? You say, is God still God? That's what you let them know. Because for some people, unless the deity is blonde-haired and blue-eyed, they don't want any parts of it. And they have to come to understand that people of African blood are New World people, and we are an eternal people. We come from a long line of royalty. Not just royalty in a mundane sense, but royalty in the sense of creativity and miracles and genius. Some of the greatest inventions that people use in America today have come from black people. Why? Because black people had to do the work. And they found a way to do the work and save some of themselves for their families. Now, I tell the story about the old lady who scrubbed the floors in the mansions of the white people in the South in the early days of slavery. And she was on her knees every day scrubbing the floor. And people said, oh, she's just an old slave and she's doing what the white man wants her to do. But she knew something that the white man didn't know. She knew that when the sun went down, even though she had gone to Catholic church on Sunday morning, on Sunday evening she went among her own people where she was lifted up as a queen. And she was dressed in finery and sat on a throne. And she says, I represent God and I represent our ancestors. So this is why she had the strength to be able to do what she did all those many, many, many years that she worked as a slave in the white man's house. And the white man knew that it was her spirit in many instances that kept his house from falling because of her prayers and because of the way she treated people who abused her. She didn't treat the white people the way they treated her because she said she knew what karma was and that it would be coming around again. So it was a perspective of understanding that I could possibly turn the black nation around with the use of the culture. Well, the civil rights movement came in vogue. People were demanding freedom in Africa from colonial powers. And unfortunately, we see some people who have had access to various philosophies of black freedom or the freedom of Africa to not understand that colonial mentalities were not made to favor us. You find in some African countries people still living colonial lives. I went to Nigeria one year in River State, Nigeria, called Calabar. This is where they took a lot of copra and slaves and other commodities from the land on ships. And a deity was born there. She's called Mammy Water. I don't know whether many of you have heard of her or not, but Mammy Water is a deity for money. And she was a mermaid on the front of the ships that came to pick up their cargoes all the time. So as African people will do, they deified Mammy Water and turned her into a goddess. Now the first Mammy Water was a white woman with long hair. But the Africans said, she doesn't represent our true race, and we have to change her. So they made her brown and chubby. Well, chubbiness was a symbol of wealth. You have money. So the Mammy Water that the Africans created was brown skin, fat, and she had long hair. The first icon representing Starbucks was a brown mermaid, chubby with long hair. And over the years, she's gotten thinner, and the hair has gotten what? Longer and longer. Now, people said, okay, so what are you saying? We're saying that Starbucks use the Mammy Water as their logo as an appendage to African power, which means that in acknowledging that mermaid as their symbol, they're using the power of Africanity to bring wealth to themselves. They don't understand that there are people like us who understand how people use the power of Africa to get things that they want or need. The European especially use that power to get the things that they want. But getting back to using the perspective of African power, it was my naivety to believe that I could turn the whole race around. And of course, it was done through the dance and through the music and through the culture. Now, in explaining what I was doing, the European wanted to know, why are you so angry? I said, I'm angry? They said, yes, you're always talking about freedom, and you're always talking about what other people have done to your people. When do you not be angry? I said, if the shoe fits, wear it. If you are abusing a race of people and you are enslaving them even without chains, you need to be reckoned with. That doesn't mean that we are angry. It means that we're seeking what? Reciprocities of one kind or the other for the atrocities that have been levied against us. We have our own people sometimes who will legislate those inequities against us in society. And they use all manner of reason to do it. Your hair doesn't fit what we like, your nails, your clothes, whatever it is about you that gives you a personhood. People say, what is a personhood? Your self-esteem, the thing that makes you the person that you are, that helps you to stand in glory and let people know who your Savior is and not be ashamed to do that. Because, even in 2019, there's still many people who are afraid to admit that they acknowledge and love the Lord Jesus Christ. They will not. I had a man ask me one night, how can I ensure myself entry into heaven? I said, I can't ensure it, but what would help if you get down on your knees and hold your arms up to God and say, Lord, I give my total self to you, and let God see and others see that you have no second thoughts about the reality of God. Because some people do have second thoughts about the reality of God because he doesn't come in a vending machine. People want God to step out of the vending machine and do for them what they want done immediately. And if it doesn't happen, if you can't buy God's salve that you rub on that make you whole, then they don't want to deal with you. See, they want you, they want it immediately. We don't get things immediately. We get things according to God's time and according to God's ambitions for you, for lack of a better word. Yes.
He wanted me to reposition the mic for you because he said
Okay.
get you in a live stream.
All
You
right.
tell me what's comfortable for you.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's good. So, in moving along with my career, I met many people who did not see a need for the highlighting of things black or African. They said, well, from what we understand, there's not very much that's good that comes out of Africa. I said, oh, there's a lot of good that comes out of Africa. I said, we built the world from early times with Egyptians to now. We are constantly finding something. Now, I don't know whether you realize it or not, but some of the greatest breakthroughs in medicine have come from people of African origin. People say, well, why do you think that was the case? I've told people many times that we are a poly people. We're not monolithic. We're not one-sided. But we see things from several different perspectives. And when you have that ability, your trial and error consciousness is much greater than a monolithic person, a person that only sees one side. If you can see many sides of a situation, somewhere along the line, you're going to find what? An answer for the manifestation. Now, they haven't been able to find a cure for Alzheimer's. And Alzheimer's is a mystery to many doctors and physicians and researchers. But they have not as yet asked a black person to come into this situation and to evaluate it and to see why it affects African Americans or New World Africans more than it does Europeans. It may be something that has to deal with the polyality of black people. Because when you look at what black people do, seemingly it's impossible to do the things that we do, but we do them. I remember a sermon that the bishop did where he used the definition of the word apokatastasis. How many people remember that sermon? And many people didn't know what apokatastasis meant. An apokite is a person who belongs to a cult of crazy people. That's an apokite. Apokatastasis is a perspective of acknowledging the fact that people belong to a certain sect, Imani Temple, or some church similar, and that they believe in metaphysical perspectives, they believe in prayer, they believe in intercessory prayer, they believe in all the things that our ancestors believed in as realities in their life. Then they are known as apokites, or those who practice apokatastasis. And that if you are a person that practices apokatastasis, you're crazy. Now, I know some of your friends think that you're crazy because you belong to Imani Temple. They do. And some of them are bold enough to tell you that to your face, that you are crazy and you're going to hell, etc., etc. You say, well, I mean, hell's right here. Yeah. So, this is hell and heaven. So the suitcase is packed already. So it's a perspective of understanding what's real and what's not. Now, I tell people all the time, pink and plastic. What's pink and plastic? A lot of things in America are pink and plastic. Some things in America that are pink are good, but many things in America that are pink is not what? Good. But we haven't been given the ability to discern that. Now, if you go in a place to either buy something or be given something, if you have more than 6 choices, you're stymied. Why? Because you can't make a decision about what you want in a given environment. You can go from here to the fabric store, which is on Silver Hill Road, to buy some African print fabric. They have so many different prints of fabric in there, you just stand there and you just look. Right. And you look. And the man says, what do you want? Well, come back to me. And you stand there. I remember the first time I went in a fabric store, I didn't buy anything. I couldn't make up my mind. So I stood there and I looked and I looked, and finally I picked one. And then when I got it up to the counter to buy it, it wasn't the one. It was something else over in the corner whispering, come over here. See me, by me, So it's a perspective of understanding how to use what? Discernment. And many people have discernment, but again, when you use your discernment, people say you are what? That you're crazy, using your discernment. So what I'm saying here is that as a rich person, New World African person, we have connections to ancient perspectives that other people refuse to use. And if we used them, we'd be better off. But we won't. Last Friday, I arrived at Duke Ellington School, where I teach dance on Friday. And there was a lady in a uniform. She was part of the security team. And when I walked through the door, she came to the machine that checks for guns and metal. And she says, I need prayer now. I need prayer right now. She said, there's so many things going on in my life that's horrible. And she says, I need you to pray for me on the spot, right here. That's the first time in my life that I've ever had anyone walk up to me and tell me I want prayer now. Not tomorrow, not this afternoon, not the morning, right now. And I had to pray for that sister right then and there, without any perspective of who's watching, who's not watching, whatever. She needed that prayer right then and there. And I prayed for her, and some other people prayed for her too. But there are people walking the streets in pain who are afraid to ask people to pray for them for fear of being turned down, turned away. We come here for Bible study. We learn things from the Bible, and the bishop interprets them and whatever. And then we leave and we go out. A lot of times it is a requirement that we use that knowledge on each other. Some do. Many what? Don't. They do not. A mother in a grocery store with 3 children moved my cart out of the way. I was in line. When I came back, she wanted to curse me out because I asked her why she moved the cart. I was only gone a half a second. She carried on. I said, you are here with 3 divine creatures. Your children are divine. I said, and you are a mother, which means that you are also divine. Stop and think of what image you are painting for the children and for yourself and for the people in this store. She stopped and she said, thank you, sir, for putting me in my place, because I'm wrong. Is that what she said? And she said, I apologize, and I'm not going to do this ever again in my life. She says, I'm embarrassed. I said, God forgives. He forgives. A mother told her son who was dying, God forgives, but nature does not. That's what she told him. She said, you can get a reprieve from God. She said, but nature. And it's true. The seasons do not argue with God in terms of changing. The autumn doesn't say, God, I'm not changing these leaves. I'm not going to do anything that's supposed to be of the fall, because I don't feel like it. You're just going to have more summer. God says, you know better than that. Nature says you know better than that. So then winter comes. Does it argue with fall? No. It does what it's supposed to. Spring comes. Does it argue with winter? No. Summer comes. Does it argue with spring? No. So these forces are stronger than any of us. But they don't argue what? With God, and they don't argue with each other. You say, well, if these forces are stronger than we are and they don't argue with each other, what's wrong with us? We must have dominion over everything and don't know when to take a back seat. Have you ever had somebody in your car sit in the front seat and they're going to tell you to go this way, go that way, you say, look, who's driving the car? Who is driving this car? God is driving this car. You are not driving this. No, but see, I always go this way. Or I always go that way. You say, I didn't ask you which way you go, and I'm giving you a ride. You're not giving me a ride. I'm giving you one, and you're going to tell me what to do. See? People, and a lot of people don't understand what dominion is. They don't understand dominion. There's a difference between benevolent dominion and co-optive dominion. Benevolent dominion gives as many people as possible blessings from God. But a co-optive dominion is trying to sneak stuff away from you all the time. I'm going to send troops into the Middle East to protect the oil fields. Well, what about the people? I'm going to protect the oil fields because we need that. See? Now, in River State, Nigeria, and I just mentioned going out there to do research, they have mercenary armies that kill people in the village every day because there are people who are martyrs who will stand up against Shell Oil, BP, Texas Oil. All the oil companies have oil rigs in that part of Nigeria, and the Nigerians are getting millions. They put none of it back into their infrastructure. They don't have such a thing as welfare. If you don't get out and work, you don't eat. It's just that simple. I saw a little girl, no work. I saw a little girl with a tray on her head one morning about 6 o'clock. She had one tomato on there, a little can of milk, and an onion. So I asked my friends, I said, where is she going at 6 o'clock in the morning with an onion, a tomato, and a can of milk? She should be going to school. He said, well, she's not going to school because her parents can't afford to pay. But she needs something to eat, and what she needs to eat, she has to trade for it. So she's going to walk through the market all day until somebody sees that tomato and wants to buy it, or sees that little can of milk and wants to buy it, or that onion and wants to buy it. Now, this is a 7-year-old girl. But she understands what? Entrepreneurship and how to what? Survive. If you take a 7-year-old over here and tell them, take this tray with these 3 items out here and sell them on, they're not going to do it. Eat the tomato, drink the milk, and the onion, they like to throw it at somebody. Because I want $200 tennis shoes. See? $200 tennis shoes.
And there was this little 7-year-old Hispanic girl.
Yes.
And what she did was she went and she took the towels out and gave them to you, and you gave her a tip. That was her job.
Entrepreneurship.
So I said it really depends on the child.
Good afternoon.
Good morning.
What we fail to do or fail to understand we see all these kids and people come from different countries. They all has different custom and tradition.
Yes.
But the custom and tradition, if you stand up and stop and take a look at it, it all pertaining to one thing: how to survive and cooperate to make a living.
That's right.
Okay? And we as a people are afraid of each other's.
Yep. Big
We
time.
are afraid of each other's. Okay? You find a Mexican come in, one will rent a house,
Yes.
and 25 of them would live there.
That's right.
They will work together, some sleep and go to work and do whatever. But at the end of 5 years, those 25 people own 25 homes.
That's right. That's right.
Because they work together. We raise hell with each other's.
Yep.
Okay? And you said something clearly about African church. The 99% of the black folks in this country, regardless of where they go, is afraid of the word African.
Just said it.
Okay? But they will go to the Roman Catholic Church
Yes.
and say, when the white man tell them bow down and we're going to have a week of praying to the saints, they jump up and holler, glory, hallelujah, he's right. But when we tell them, worship your grandmother and your forefathers,
It's voodoo.
oh no, you're practicing voodoo. What the white man did was change the language.
Yes, sir.
Change the language, but they do the same thing. Take your culture
Yes.
and make you afraid of yourself.
Say it.
Definition.
Yes, sir.
How could I be afraid of my grandmother who raised me?
Yes,
Definition.
sir.
But we are afraid.
Yes.
And it is sad. So I don't know. And then the other side of it, Doc, is you look at it, we had only been freed for 150 years
That's true.
or 400 years of slavery.
That's right.
Okay?
No.
But our greatest demolish and fear is not from the Eurocentric philosophers. It's from us.
That's right.
Because we educators do worse than the Eurocentric thing.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And people will go on a vendetta. Black people will go on a vendetta to discourage you and to discredit what you bring as pure knowledge to them, to help them free themselves and their people and their families. And it's getting ready to come up, Thanksgiving. One of the most tumultuous times in a family's life is holidays. You got old animosities, hatreds, shootings, stabbings, all over a turkey. Why? Because we don't like each other. We don't like our relatives. We've been torn apart to the point where it's one part of the family against another part of the family. You sold the house when you shouldn't have sold the house when Aunt so-and-so died. And blah, 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 silly stuff that people have been doing. You see it all the time. So people will come to Thanksgiving dinner, but they have a wary eye of each other. And you're going to hear, unfortunately, we don't want to hear and see it, but it's true. We're going to hear a lot of carnage and ugliness around something that's supposed to bring families together. Celebration. It's Christmas, the same thing. New Year's, the same thing. And I tell the young people that during slavery time, if you could prove that you got a woman pregnant on the plantation, they would give you a gallon of rum and a ham, both of which are what? Poison. And a pair of shoes so that you could walk from plantation to plantation impregnating women so they could sell the babies. Now that's serious. But they do it. And they did it and they're still doing it. Right now, because human trafficking is so bad that it's coming out in the daily newspapers. 39 people found in a truck dead.
Yeah.
Human trafficking. You know, snatching them off the street. You see a young girl walking down the street around 13, 14 years old. She should not be walking down the street because a car can pull up and snatch her in the twinkling of an eye, and she will never see her parents again. See? Endangered species. Miss Dale.
Oh,
Miss Dale.
what I was going, you were talking about entrepreneur. I can remember as a child. Oh, I'm sorry. I can remember as a child, over 50-some years ago, my cousin, his father died, then his mother died, which was my father's sister.
Mm-hmm.
He was 14 out of 5 kids. The youngest was 6. And I never thought about it as a child. But what he would do, he would come up with ideas, like he would take soap and decorate it. He would go to house and sell it. He even had my sister's brothers and sisters. We would help him, but he kept all the money. But it wasn't for himself. It was for his siblings, to get them what they needed. He got married at 18. He had 4 kids. He worked at the Chevrolet dealer on St. Barnabas Road, doing detail. Back that time, you would detail, put the stripes on the car. He said, I can do this myself. He started his own business. He moved to Atlanta. He opened up the business. He brought all his kids in to work for him. And I don't know if that came from, because he's half Chinese and he's half African American. And with the combination of both. And we know Asians always bring their families into working. He retired, gave the business to his kids. His sons run the business. Daughter works in the office doing the same way. He told me when I went to visit him, he said, I went to his house where he lived. He said, one day I want to buy a property where I can build a house where each one of my kids could live. He started that. He built a house for himself. He built a house for his daughter. He got a house for each one of his kids. So I'm saying, I don't know if he was ever taught that, but that started as a child, that he had the idea that he wanted to keep this business, start his own business, that he could work for himself and pass it on for generations to come.
Some people did not listen to the Willie Lynch decree. How many people here are familiar with the Willie Lynch decree?
Yeah.
The Willie Lynch decree said you should not do anything for yourself, that my littlest child should be able to command you to do anything that I or they want you to do. And you ought to be led by the children or wives or any other white person that lives in the big house. Everybody didn't listen to the Willie Lynch decree. They said, yeah, okay. But they had within them the spark of genius, and they were going to let it shine. You will find that there are a lot of young people who want to start businesses, and I talk about bar mitzvah and bat mitzvah. At bar mitzvah and bat mitzvah for Jewish children, it's a way of introducing them to potential husbands and wives, and they want you to marry on the same level that they're on. If a Jewish man has a lot of money, he wants his son to marry a young lady whose family has an equal amount of money. They don't marry down, they marry up, okay? Which means that they are willing to give their son $100,000 and says, go and increase my money. Bring me my $100,000 back, and you have some profit to start your own business. Now, I've gotten you off on a good start. You go out there and make more and bring me my money back. If you don't, it's going to be trouble. Now, you give an African-American youth $100,000, and they'll be over in Forest Village Park Mall buying every pair of tennis shoes you can think of and laughing at the person who gave them the money for giving it to them. Okay? So it's a situation where the Willie Lynch decree is still much alive and well today as it was back in slavery time. That we were told we should do nothing for ourselves. If we want anything done, we should let the white man do it for us. Just that simple, Brother Earl.
I wanted to reiterate on something Dr. Gibson said. Now, when I first started to attend this church, and that's one of the reasons why I'm still here, God blessed me with an opportunity to meet Dr. Karenka, who we'll say established or formulated the whole concept of the Gulu Summer. I brought it up on many occasions while we've had town hall meetings and all kinds of stuff about when he was just talking about how other cultures, other people will unify, emoja. You know what I mean? Use collective work and responsibility, use cooperative economics, have purpose, define themselves, you know what I mean, have creativity, and most of all, have faith in each other and work with each other. Now, if we are supposed to be the church that's supposed to bring this kind of concept as a collective to the body of people in America, it's got to start here. And it's got to work here. Because if our people in America and around the world are not operating in that, that's our responsibility. But first it has to start here, and it has to be on a solid footing.
That's right.
All that talking around the subject, talking about how other people are doing it, it infuriates me. I'm gonna be straight up, and I'm as honest as you can get. I know I'm one of the blackest men you will ever run into. Mm-hmm. Because I'm not afraid to speak to white people. Definitely not afraid to speak to white people or black people and tell them the truth. God made me as a man. I'm not a sheep. So I'm going to act as a man because I'm that part of God called man. Manifestation.
Yes.
And so all of that cute talk, and we can talk back and forth with each other, talking about what other people don't do. What we got to do is look inwardly. Stop operating from the inside out like a seed grows. Seeds grow from the inside out, not the outside in. We have to grow this thing from here and stop talking about it, act on it, so that we can be an example to everybody else that surrounds us. Or just like we say, if we want people to see God in us, then they're supposed to see those other things in us.
Fear and
making excuses is not going to cut it at this point in day, especially with all of the foolishness that we clearly see
every day.
And we see that our situation is not getting better, at least not the people who are so-called trying to oppress us. Now, we're responsible because we're the head of families. And we gotta bring our children up in this foolishness, like our parents did with us. And we gotta change this stuff. Reform is not enough when we ask for change. But change is gonna have to come from the inside, not the outside.
Fear and laughter.
Thank you.
Many people are afraid of laughter. If they have an idea, how many people here have an idea for a business? Raise your hands.
Got it going right now.
Dr. Wellington, Brother Adrian, who else? Brother Amshap, who else? Brother Russell. You have one? Okay. Who else? Okay, now, we have a body here of people that if we come together and show each other what we're trying to do, solicit help from each other, we can do it. Now, I'm always having revelations about businesses that can be done. Creativity has always been my benchmark, which means that I'm not afraid to step out in faith to do things, and people say, that's crazy. I said, I know. But it has been the craziness that has made me the artist that I am.
Yes, sir.
Because it allows me to think not outside the box, take the box away altogether and build another one that favors me. That's right, you have to take that first step. Now I'll tell you about the one that God has been talking to me about. And you see, you have to meditate and you have to sit quietly and let God talk to you and give you the plan for what you want to do. Because you'll never get it running in and out the door, because you'll be doing stuff for the white man and somebody else all the time. You have to sit still and let God talk to you. I want to design another fabric that nobody else has thought of. And it's not new. In fact, it's very ancient. Kente cloth, but a new twist on kente cloth. I have license to do that. People say, yes, it may not be exactly the same kente cloth that you're used to seeing, but who's to say that I can't invent a new kente cloth on this side of the ocean? And people will buy it. Why? Because they're so monolithic and tacky and dull and drab that anything that you can think of, they will buy. And I gave the bishop a proverb sitting at the dinner table downstairs after Brother Milton, what's his last name? Gilchrist, at his repast. I said, nothingness will become something when there's nothing else. So people will take nothingness. You said, you hear some people singing or dancing. You said, that ain't nothing. What is that? That ain't nothing. According to what you have experienced in your life, that ain't nothing. But nothing will become something when you do not provide something else for people to say, now that's something. That's worthy of my attention and my support. The nothingness will continue to hog the stage. All the time, nothingness. You say, and it's nothingness. And you make it something because nobody else wants to rise to the occasion. To do something. Dr. Lee.
Hello? Oh, I'm Bobbie Lee. What I'm asking y'all to do, because names escape me, faces don't. I know your faces, but I may not know your name. So when I give you the mic, just say your name. So I'll know, nobody else. Thank you.
You want to know my name?
Yes, ma'am.
What I have to say is this. I understood this man back there that said men.
Mm-hmm.
But I want them to know you got women in here and out there that's tougher than the average man. And I want you to know, I was born in the country. And I didn't know nothing except one Bible a 3-bedroom house.
Yes.
But I just want to say,
Yes.
I listened to him talk about the Catholic people tell you to lay down for 7 days or 6 days. I just want to say, because about, I call him, I'm sorry, Bob, I'm sorry. I always call, I've known him for years.
I know.
But I want to say, I learned how to walk from my grandmother, my mother.
Yes.
But I learned from Trinidad. If they say, fall on the ground and don't eat for 6 days, you fall on that ground and you say your prayers for 6 days and you come up knowing you more than you ever known before.
That's right.
And when I came back here, Mother Efinale, she kept me. But then I met Bobbie. And I had a 4-year-old boy.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to tell all of you, he was raised by all women.
Right.
Yes.
And he's 21. Father had him carrying his drum on his back when he was a little thing on Marbury, on Minnesota Avenue.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And most women didn't want to bring their children there.
Mm-hmm.
But then after you looked at it, like you say, you looked at it, looked beautiful and all that, but he taught that boy to drum. That boy can drum. I know, I just wanted to bring us women around. Because 4 women raised that one boy. And when my mother passed, he went back to his mother. But guess what? He said, well, I have to go. It's a story, but I'm going to make it short. I have to go to Washington to see my auntie and my mother. That's what he called my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And we played a game on him because we gave him money and he was teaching some of the other kids. But I just want to let you know that us ladies don't think we can't stand. Because I know how old I am. And I know how many peanuts I shook. And I know how when you go down there, and when you go down there in that island and they said, do it, you do it. When they said don't eat for so many days, you can sit right there, lay right there and pray, and God will answer.
That's right.
Oh, Luther Murray will tell you. And that's what I learned. And I come to this church. When I got ready to come, I didn't just run there.
Mm-hmm.
I took 3 churches. And Mother said, decide. And we had poured libation for this church on 16th Street.
Mm-hmm.
I turned around, I said, you're closing because you're 89. I said, I'm going to Baba Sterling's church. She said, why? I said, well, the one thing he does is he poured libation to our ancestors. And after he got that, he don't have to tell me nothing else. Because when everybody else be talking around here and everybody else be saying, it's just like something in my head goes. And when I walk, and I have to tell you, when I walk in this church, I don't come for foolishness.
Yeah.
And I even leave my cane. Sometimes I have to go back and get it. But when I go home, sometimes I say, I need my cane. And I got 7.
Mm-hmm.
But I just wanted to let you know, because of Mother Taylor from Trinidad, and I don't know, I don't know where Bobbie Lee come from, but I met him years ago. And he had been to Africa so much that I was angry. And I'm still angry, because I didn't get there yet, but I tell you this. Let God let me live and step next year. I'll be able to come back and take it. Well, I didn't go with y'all. Y'all didn't want to go. I'm gone.
There you go.
And I will come back.
Mm-hmm.
So I thank Reverend Stallman, because sometimes he'll call me when he know I'm depressed.
Yes.
But I make it.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned to take whatever God tell me. I said, it's going to work out. I ain't even got to worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that 21-year-old boy is an A, B student.
Wonderful.
And the only time he never, and I'm the only one that gives him money. And he says to me, I ain't got no but a little bit of money. And believe it or not, when school started this year, I ain't seen him but one time. He came to the house and he said, he told me last night, I ain't got no money. You know, I went to the bank the day before I came here because he's American Indian. That's his father's side. And he's something else. You know he's something else.
Yes.
Hey, I just want to kick back. You know what what Mama Mary was just talking about. That's what happened with Milton. Milton was raised by all women.
Mm-hmm.
I seen it firsthand. You know what I mean? That's why I was there with him, and he grew up in that neighborhood we grew up in was very volatile, very violent.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And you could see how many people was here for that brother.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yes.
That's to show you the work that them sisters put in.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? They put in work.
Yes.
They put in work. He didn't have no males around him. His uncle came here later on,
Mm-hmm.
but he had no males around. All women. And look at how that man turned out.
No father.
He didn't know his father.
Mm-hmm.
He had a lot of love.
And he gave a lot.
You know what I mean? And
That's
they
right.
gave it to him. They raised him up. I mean, you see what kind of man he became.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So, that's not an excuse for us anymore.
Well, if I can just say something,
All the excuses we
and not to really come down on anybody.
No.
We all talk about something needs to be done about us as a people,
Mm-hmm.
but nobody is willing to, I'm not going to say nobody, but as a group, we're not willing to sacrifice and do what we need to do to come out of the state that we're in.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, people talk about how these immigrants come and they've helped their people, but when we were going from south to north, we also, the people that went north first, secured houses so that the people in the south would have some place to live when they came north. So we did those things that we see other people doing. We did those things.
Yes, ma'am.
But now we're at a point where we have, I don't know whether we think we've arrived because they passed so many laws that included us.
Yes.
But in the meantime, really excluding us. Look at the mass incarceration.
Yes.
When they massively incarcerated these young black men, that was because they opened the floodgates in the South and brought the Hispanics in that would work 2 or 3 for the one that they would have to give the black man.
That's right.
With no benefits, which the black man had the rights.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just saying that I know that we're in a state where we need to do something about our condition here.
Yes, ma'am.
But how many people are willing to really give up? If I were to ask, how many people are really willing to give up sports for a year? Because all of that, was taken. If something, even as we sit in here, we're occupying some space. So when you have the space in your mind that all you can think about is the stats of what player did this and what football player bought a white woman and his family. We're looking at all of that.
Yes, ma'am.
But how many people are willing to give up sports for a year?
Come on, man.
If we look at the number of black men who are so engaged first in football now and with the World Series and all of that, how many people are willing to turn their attention inward to their own conditions and try to?
Yes, ma'am.
Because when you're giving anything attention, you're meditating on that thing.
That's right.
Whether you're reading a book, whatever you're doing, it's meditation on whatever level you want to call it.
Yep.
So when are we willing to really back up off of all of the distractions that continue to keep us enslaved and really
Toys.
move forward with a purpose?
Toys.
Yes, toys.
Number toys.
I am the king. Woo! Only because.
You know what I'm saying? It's all right.
I listened to all of this, and ask everyone one simple question. Okay, what are we willing to do to turn this institution around? Okay, I always ask one question. I always ask one simple question of humanity, of the AACC. Why are you here?
Yes.
And what are your intentions? Why are you here and what are your intentions?
That's right.
And it is, don't even go that way. I've been here, I was here from the time at Howard University.
Hello?
Yeah, Melvin, are you finished the Bible study yet?
Not yet. 1 o'clock.
It's a little after 1. It's 10 after 1.
Yeah, we'll be finished in about 5 or 10 minutes.
All right, call me back. I need to bring it out to the storage because it has to be in your name, but we'll pay for it.
Okay.
It has to be in your name.
Okay.
Okay? Why are we here? What are we willing to do? Okay? I am a brother that my life story doesn't even matter because my father and brother took good care of me. And when you all talk about ladies raising male, if you grew up in the country in another country, you very seldom see the man because he was out working.
Yes, sir.
Very seldom. Only person you see was mama, auntie, daddy, mommy, auntie, and the rest of the ladies. But because the ladies are the one who will teach the child how to come up, respect, and everything else.
Right.
Daddy's responsibility was to provide the means of a comfortable life. Bring the bread home. That was daddy's job. The dining room, when dinner was over, the dining room would be cleaned off and the dining room become the classroom. And that's where the education was. You know, but we are too busy now giving our children, our grandchildren, everything else. My grandchildren said to me, Grandpa, you mean? I said, yes, I mean like hell. Well, what are you going to give me? Bring me some A's. You
That's
bring me
right.
A's, I gave you what you want.
Mm-hmm.
You can't bring me no A's? Have a good day. Because nothing, the picture we've been painted saying everything in life is free. That's a lie.
No.
That's a lie. But let's get back to Imani Temple. We've been in existence for 30 years.
Yes.
Okay? 30 years.
Yeah.
What do you have to show for it? What do you have to show for it? Why are we still beating the same horse? Why are we beating the same horse?
Because they probably think the horse is doing the right thing.
No, the horse, yeah.
I said, you can be thinking that you're doing the right thing, but not knowing it. Everybody don't know when they're right and wrong.
Okay.
A lot of people go the wrong way, just like our men. Some of the men. I can't talk for all. I can only talk for the ones that I had. They think they're going the right way. They ain't taking care of their kids. They don't know them. They don't do nothing. Then when you get the right man, no one know why you got him.
Okay.
But see, one thing I have them. People used to say you go to the upper room. I used to go downstairs to the room, and I used to live with my family, and I used to do everything I thought was right. But I was enabling other people because I was doing everything. And I still do everything. But I'm not an enabler. My kids are taught anything you want, you got to work for it.
Okay, I
And
understand.
God's been good to me. So I think He's been good to most of all of us, but we take things for granted.
Okay, good.
We want what we want.
Okay.
But he helps us with our needs, not our wants.
Okay.
And that's why people are confused. I never had a $200 tennis shoe. I would never pay over $45 for any shoe.
Right.
That's my thing. But different strokes for different folks. Everybody brought up different.
Yes.
Okay.
That's true.
God is good.
Okay.
That's what you need to know. And
Well,
we all supposed to
no,
be
okay.
united and love one another.
Okay, here,
I
when I,
don't like that one, but I like this one.
okay, that's fine.
That's wrong.
Well,
That's
I love
right.
Everybody.
Everybody.
This ain't even my church.
That's,
Okay?
Sure.
that's, I understand that, but what I'm saying is when I ask the question,
That's where I need to be.
when I ask the, when I ask,
You're right.
when I
You're
ask,
right.
when I ask the question, when I when I asked the question, for 30 years we were in existence, what do we have to show for 30 years? If this institution intend, or we intend, that this institution survive, that will be able to sustain itself and educate young black men and women, we who in here have to change our mindset and our direction.
Active evangelism.
Okay?
Active evangelism.
And here is, evangelism is fine. Got no problem with that. But on the other side, you have to put your money where your mouth is.
That's true.
Okay? If you put your money, you got faith. Okay, now, sweetheart, listen, I hear people say they don't have money. I hear they say they don't have money. But let me ask each and every one of you all in here, okay? When you went to bed last night, your brother said to you, the 100% mercy I gave to you yesterday, you only used 97% of it. When you wake up this morning, he didn't tell you you only had 7%. He said 100% mercy I gave you. 100. So he said, ask and it will be given. Seek and he shall find. Knock, the door will be open. So when you tell me what you don't have, I don't understand. Because if your father, listen to me, if your father owns more than 1,000 head of cattle on the hills, and your brother said, whatever you want, ask him, he will make sure you have it. What make you think your father will deny you? If your son come to you and say, Mommy, I need $100 to go out here to party tonight, you say, well, I don't have 100, but I got 20. Okay? But be careful. Okay? Ask your father and your brother what you want, and you will get it. We have to change this mindset of what you don't have. What you don't have, because if you believe in Jesus Christ, if you believe in him, then he has everything. I hear people say, well, God say, come as you are. Yes, bring me your heart as you are. But come perfectly clad to see me.
Many people don't realize that God is a metaphysical God. People say, what is a metaphysical God? The kind of God that you can talk to and ask for things, and it will be given to you, and you will do with it what you promised God that you will do with it. A lot of people think they can fool God. I don't know why, because you can't see him and he's nice. But the reality is that when you ask God for something, you are asking God prayerfully. You're asking him within earnest spirit and truth that you will do with what God gives you what you said you will do. And many people play games with God. I'm going to get it, and I'm not going to do what I said I'm going to do. But you must do what you say you're going to do, or it's not going to yield. It's not going to work. Because you can't, God will not be mocked, as they say. Okay, I'm going to stop. Not that I want to stop at this point. Brother Russell wants to say something.
I do have a question.
Yes.
What do you tell a person that says they do not believe in God?
That I will pray for them, and that you hope that one day they'll have a revelation of need, that they will call upon God who will answer that need. Because some people don't think they will ever need God. It's like a woman who almost died, a very rich woman that almost died on a hiking trip up a mountain. And she slipped and was hanging from a thread. And she was rescued by the rescue team. And she says, at the moment I slipped and was hanging from that rope is when I found God. She said, there's no other way that I could have survived without God. So people will have experiences in their lives that will show them and teach them that God is real, good and bad. And sometimes God does things and people say, well, I don't need that right now. God says, you don't know what you need. I'm the one that knows what you need, not you.
Excuse me, can you give me one strong word that I should tell someone that says, I do not believe in God? God does not exist. What strong word could you give me to relate to them, to make them understand that God is here for them? They wake up every morning and God...
Live long enough. Live long enough, and you will see the power of God. If you live long enough. Many people don't think that if they live long enough that they're going to see the power of God. The mere fact that you are living, that you woke up this morning, that you can walk and talk and see and eat. Some people did not wake up this morning. See? So you tell people, be not deceived. The devil is slew-footed, wears a 4-piece suit, and has a haircut all the time. And he's about telling you lies to trap you, to get you. I tell him, Halloween's coming, look out. Thursday, tomorrow. Yes. You don't do Halloween, but Halloween will do you if you're not careful. Thank you, church, for coming. Give yourselves a hand. I enjoy filling in for Bishop, so yeah. So they have some zuzu in the back room. Yes. Some zuzu. Oh, Grace. Okay. Please hold your hands up for God. Dear Mother, Father God, we thank you for the opportunity to fellowship here today. We thank you for coming in our midst and blessing each and every one of us. We thank you for waking us up this morning to start us on our way. We thank you for interceding in all that we have partaken of today, yesterday, and the hope of tomorrow. Bless this food that we're about to receive for the nourishment of our bodies in the name of Jesus Christ and all of our ancestors' sake. Everyone say amen.